The sun was slowly setting over the dusty alien marketplace when Jacob, a human engineer, walked through the narrow road. He had come to this planet only 3 weeks ago, hoping to find work and help build small machines for the local people. He liked the simple life here. The air was warm, the streets were busy, and strange smells filled every corner, some good, some bad. But on this day, something very different was waiting for him. Jacob was carrying a small toolbox in one hand and a metal part in the other when he heard a sudden loud thud. It was not the sound of something falling. It was the sound of a body hitting the ground hard. People nearby gasped and moved away quickly. Alien faces turned pale. They formed a circle, whispering to each other. Afraid to step closer, Jacob pushed. Through the crowd, on the ground lay an alien woman, thin like she had not eaten for many days. Her skin looked pale, her eyes half open. She was breathing, but very slowly, almost like each breath hurt her. Beside her was a little alien girl, about 6 years old, her small hand shaking as she touched her mother's arm. "Mom!" "Wake up," the girl whispered in a broken voice. "Please wake up." Jacob felt something twist inside his chest. He could not watch someone collapse and walk away. That was not what humans did, not what he did. He knelt beside the woman and checked her forehead. It was cold. Her pulse was weak. "She needs help," Jacob said loudly, looking at the crowd. "Someone call a healer." But no one moved. People stepped back instead of forward. Some hid behind stalls. Some whispered, "Stay away. It might be sickness. It might be dangerous." Jacob gritted his teeth. These people were scared, maybe too scared, but he couldn't just leave the woman on the ground. Then he noticed something else. The little girl was holding a small toy, shaped like a round animal with glowing eyes. But the toy's lights were flickering, blinking weakly as if it was dying too. The girl looked up at Jacob with wide, desperate eyes. "Human," the girl whispered, her voice shaking. "Can you fix my toy? Mom dropped it when she fell." Jacob blinked. The situation was serious, and the little girl was asking about a toy. But then he saw the way she hugged it. The toy was not just a toy to her. It meant something. Maybe something important. Jacob softened his voice. "First we help your mother. I promise." The girl shook her head, tears running down her cheeks. But the toy, it is important. It sends help. Please. Fix it." Her words hit him like a shock. "It sends help?" She nodded fast. "Yes, but it broke." When she fell, Jacob picked up the toy carefully. It was warm and humming slightly. A thin crack ran across its side. If it really was a signal device, it might be the only way to call someone who could save the mother. He stood up. Decision already made. "I'm taking both of you with me," he said. Jacob lifted the mother gently in his arms. She was light. Too light, like she had not eaten for days. With his other hand, he held the girl's small fingers. The toy was tucked in his pocket. People around them whispered as Jacob walked past them. "Humans are strange. Why is he touching her? He will get the sickness." Jacob ignored them and moved faster. The girl kept looking at her mother's face, fear filling her eyes. "Is she going to die?" she asked softly. Jacob looked down at her. "Not if I can help it." He reached his small workshop at the edge of the market. It was simple: one table, a few tools, some lights, and scraps of metal scattered everywhere. But it was warm, safe, and private. He placed the mother on a blanket near the wall. The girl quickly sat beside her, holding her mother's hand tightly. Jacob took out the toy. He could feel a strange energy inside it, weak but still alive. It was not an ordinary toy. It was something more, maybe a distress beacon, maybe a medical device, maybe something used by alien healers. The girl watched him with hope in her eyes. "Please, human, fix it. Please." Jacob nodded slowly. "I will try," he said. He turned on his lamp, took out his tools, and opened the cracked Toy, the inside was more complex than anything he had seen on this planet. Tiny wires, glowing stones, spinning rings of light, all damaged. Jacob's heartbeat grew faster. He understood now. This toy could save the mother's life. But if he failed? The toy flickered one last time, then went completely dark. Jacob took a deep breath. He had to save it. He had to save them both. Jacob sat at his work table with the broken toy in front of him. The workshop lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows on the walls. Outside, night had fallen fast, and the marketplace noise was slowly fading away. But inside the small room, everything felt heavier, like the air itself was holding its breath. The little alien girl sat beside her unconscious mother. She held her mom's cold hand with both of hers, as if her tiny fingers could keep her alive. Her eyes watched Jacob closely, filled with fear, hope, and something deeper, trust. Trust in a human she had met only minutes ago. Jacob leaned closer to the toy and opened it further. Inside, he found something strange. Tiny circular stones glowed in soft purple light, each one spinning slowly. At the center was a cracked crystal, releasing small sparks of blue light. It was unstable. Very unstable. This is not a normal toy, Jacob whispered to himself. The girl's ears twitched. I told you. It calls for help, she said in a soft, trembling voice. Jacob looked at her carefully. Who does it call? She hesitated, as if afraid to reveal a secret. The healer ship. They help sick people. But only if they get a strong signal. Jacob's heart beat faster. If he fixed this device, healers might come. If he didn't, the mother. He glanced at the weak, unconscious woman on the floor. She might not live through the night. And you said it broke when she collapsed? Jacob asked. The girl nodded. Mom was walking to the healer tower to ask for help. But she was too weak. She fell, and the toy hit the ground. Jacob looked at her mother again. Her breathing was slower now. Her skin looked even paler than before. She needed help soon. He took a long breath and focused on the broken crystal. If he applied too much heat, the crystal might shatter. If he used too little, it would not activate. It was like trying to repair a beating heart with shaking hands. He turned to the girl. What's your name? She blinked, surprised. He asked. Leary. Jacob nodded. Okay, Leary, I'm going to fix your beacon. But I need to know something first. Why didn't anyone help you in the market? Why were they afraid? Leary looked at the floor. People say Mom is sick from the dust storms. They think it spreads. They think we are dangerous. They don't want to touch us. Jacob remembered the way the crowd pulled away, the fear in their eyes. He felt anger rising inside him. He hated when people treated sickness like a crime. Don't worry, Jacob said gently. I'm not afraid. Leary looked up, her eyes shining with tears. Humans are different. Jacob smiled faintly, then returned to work. He picked up a fine soldering tool and touched the cracked crystal. A spark jumped. The blue light flickered. The small spinning stones slowed down, then sped up again. Leary held her breath. Jacob tightened a wire. The toy made a faint humming sound. He added a drop of conductive gel. The hum grew louder. But suddenly, a loud crack echoed inside the workshop. One of the internal rings split apart. No, Jacob muttered. If the internal ring was broken, the signal would be weak. The healer ship might not hear it. Leary stood up quickly. Is it broken forever? Jacob shook his head. Not forever. But I need something to replace this piece. He searched his work table but found nothing that matched. Alien tech was far more advanced than the simple machines he repaired every day. Then he noticed something lying in his toolbox, a small human-made energy coil. One he had built for a different project. It was not the same material as the alien component, but it might work, maybe. Jacob paused. Using human tech on alien tech was risky. It could cause a surge. It could overload the beacon. But if it worked, it might create a stronger signal than before. He looked at Leary and at her mother, who now seemed barely breathing. There was no time left. He placed the human coil into the alien toy. It fit perfectly, as if it belonged there. Jacob tightened the screws, connected the last wire, and took a deep breath. "Leary," he said softly, "stand back." She stepped back, her tiny hands shaking. Jacob pressed the activation switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the toy glowed bright blue. A soft vibration moved through the table. The purple stone spun faster and faster. The cracked crystal turned from blue to white, filling the entire room with cold, bright light. Leary gasped. "It's working." Jacob watched the beacon emit a long rising tone, a strong signal shooting upward, through the roof, through the sky. But then something unexpected happened. A second tone echoed back. A reply. Jacob's eyes widened. Someone or something had heard the beacon. But the reply did not sound friendly, and the workshop lights began to flicker wildly. The long, sharp reply sound echoed through Jacob's workshop like a cold wind. It wasn't soft. It wasn't friendly. It sounded more like a warning, a deep metallic call that made the room vibrate. Leary covered her ears. What was that?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Jacob didn't answer at first. He stared at the glowing beacon. The toy was brighter than before, almost too bright, as if the human coil inside had supercharged it. The tiny purple stones spun in fast circles, making a soft humming sound that kept rising. He stepped closer, studying the strange lights. "This isn't normal," he said quietly. The beacon wasn't just sending a signal now, it was listening. The reply came again, low, deep, and heavy. The workshop's windows rattled. A few tools on the shelf fell to the floor. Leary held Jacob's arm. "Is the healer ship coming?" Jacob frowned. He hoped so, but the reply tone, it felt different. "Too mechanical, too aggressive. We'll find out," he said. He slowly lowered the beacon's volume and adjusted the crystal. The blue-white glow dimmed a little. The humming softened. Jacob didn't want it to overload. Then he heard something else, a soft groan. Leary's mother. Jacob rushed to her. The mother's eyes twitched. Her fingers curled weakly. She tried to breathe deeper, but coughed instead, a dry, painful cough that echoed through the small room. "Mom!" Leary cried, dropping to her knees. Jacob gently lifted the mother's head and placed a cloth under it. Her skin felt even colder than before. Her chest rose and fell too slowly. He checked her pulse and felt his stomach drop. "Her pulse is very weak," he whispered. Leary looked at him with wide, terrified eyes. "Will she die?" Jacob hesitated. He didn't want to lie. "Not if help arrives soon." "Then fix the beacon," Leary begged. "Please. They must hear it." Jacob nodded and returned to the work table. The beacon was glowing again, but the reply tone wasn't coming anymore. Instead, the toy began to show something new, a faint hologram, like a projection trying to form. "What is this?" Jacob murmured. The hologram flickered, showing blurry shapes, maybe a face or maybe symbols. The signal wasn't strong enough to create a full message. Jacob tried adjusting the human coil, but every time he touched it, the hologram flickered harder. Then, slowly, a voice began to break through the static. "Patient. Dangerous. Do not move." The voice was rough, broken, but it was definitely speaking the alien language. Leary gasped. "It's them. It's the healers." Jacob leaned closer, listening carefully. The hologram flickered again, showing a tall figure wearing healer robes. The face wasn't clear, but the voice was strong enough now. "Do not move the patient," the message repeated, clearer this time. "Infection suspected. Quarantine." Immediately, Jacob froze. Infection? That was the same fear the marketplace people had. The same fear that made them stay away. But was it true? Was the mother infected with something dangerous? He looked at Leary. She was hugging her mother tightly, tears running down her face. She wasn't sick. She wasn't coughing. She wasn't showing any symptoms. Jacob stood up slowly. "Leary," he said, "has your mother been sick for long?" Leary shook her head. "No, she was only tired. She didn't eat for days. She said the dust storms made it hard to breathe." Jacob felt a wave of anger. Starvation, not infection. He knew the difference. He had seen starving workers before on far-off colonies. Starvation made the body collapse and the lungs weaken. It didn't spread. It didn't infect others. But the healer message said something else. Why would they think it's infection? Jacob wondered aloud. The hologram flickered again. "Stay inside. Guards notified. Danger level high." Guards? Why would healers call guards? Suddenly, a loud noise echoed outside the workshop. Thud. Then another. Thud. Someone was knocking on the door hard. Jacob's heart tightened. He moved toward the window and peeked through the small crack. His eyes widened. Outside stood 3 armored alien guards, holding electric spears, scanning the area. Their helmets glowed in the dark. They looked serious. They looked ready for action. Leary grabbed Jacob's sleeve. "Why are the guards here?" Jacob didn't want to tell her the truth. That the healers might have sent them. That they believed her mother was a danger. That they might want to take her away. He turned off the workshop lights and whispered, "Stay quiet. Don't make a sound." The knocking grew louder. "Open the door," a guard shouted. "We have orders." Jacob motioned Leary to hide behind the work table. He placed her mother beside her, covering them with a thick blanket. The beacon suddenly made a soft beep, then another. Then a long rising alarm. The door shook under a heavy fist. Jacob whispered to himself, "This is bad. This is very bad." Outside, the guards raised their weapons. Inside, the beacon glowed dangerously brighter. Something big was coming, and Jacob didn't know. If it was friend or enemy. The door shook so hard that dust fell from the ceiling. Jacob stood completely still, his breath held tight in his chest. The heavy fists of the alien guards slammed against the metal again. Thud! "Open this door immediately," one of them shouted. Leary pressed closer to her unconscious mother, trying not to cry. Her small fingers trembled as she covered her mouth. Jacob crouched beside her and whispered, "Stay quiet. No matter what happens, do not make a sound." Leary nodded, though fear made her entire body shake. Jacob stood up slowly. He didn't move toward the door. Instead, he moved to the work table and grabbed a small metal bar, just in case. But deep inside, he knew a metal bar meant nothing against trained guards with electric spears. The beacon glowed again with a bright pulse white and blue light flickering inside the room. The hum grew louder, almost like the beacon itself was panicking. Jacob frowned. Why is it reacting now? He tapped the side lightly. The beacon flickered and projected a small hologram again, but this time, it wasn't a healer. It was a warning symbol, a red circle flashing around the image of a spear. Jacob's jaw tightened. They're not coming to help her. They're coming to remove her. He knew what remove meant on some planets. It didn't mean take her to a hospital. It meant take her away forever. Thud. TOD. The guards were losing patience. A loud, metallic voice echoed through the door. By order of the regional chief, release the infected woman. Leary's head jerked up. Why are they calling her infected? She is not. She's just hungry. Jacob clenched his fists. Because it's easier to call someone dangerous than to help them. He moved quietly toward the window and peeked. Again, the guards were not just 3 anymore. Now there were 5. Their electric spears glowed bright blue. One of them carried a metal container, a containment box. Jacob's stomach twisted. If they took Leary's mother, she would never return. He turned quickly and walked back to Leary. "We are not giving your mother to them, but we need to stay safe." Leary's eyes filled with tears. "What will we do?" Before Jacob could answer, the door rattled again. "Last warning," the guard shouted. "Follow orders or we force entry." Jacob's heart pounded. He knew he had very little time. Then suddenly, boom! A loud blast shook the front of the workshop. Something hit the door from outside, but this time it wasn't the guards. It was the sky. A bright light shone through the cracks in the roof. Not white, not red, green. Jacob's eyes widened. "What in the world?" Leary gasped. "The healer ship. They are here." But Jacob wasn't sure. The healer ships usually arrived silently. This arrival was aggressive, loud, and fast. The beacon's hum grew louder, reacting to the light. The crystal inside spun wildly. Sparks jumped out. Jacob quickly covered it with a cloth before it exploded. Outside, the guards backed away in confusion. "What is that?" "Shield your eyes. Is that the healer ship or?" The sky thundered again. Jacob ran to the window. A massive ship hovered above the marketplace, glowing in bright green light. Its engines roared like a storm. But something was wrong. It did not carry healer symbols. It carried something else, something he had never seen before. Leary ran to Jacob and grabbed his shirt. "Is that help?" Jacob wasn't sure. The ship didn't look like help. It looked like power. It looked like authority. And it looked angry. Then something unexpected happened. The green light shot a thin beam straight down directly onto Jacob's workshop. The entire room shook. Jacob pulled Leary close and covered her with his body. Tools rolled across the floor. The mother's blanket blew aside. The beacon glowed bright again, reacting to the beam. Then, a hologram suddenly appeared above the beacon, clear this time. A healer captain appeared, tall and calm, wearing deep blue robes. Jacob froze. Leary stared, shocked. The captain spoke firmly. "Do not surrender the patient. We are on our way." "The guards have been misinformed." Jacob sucked in a sharp breath. Misinformed? By who? The hologram flickered. The regional chief. Wants the mother removed before. Before what? Before they exposed him? Before she revealed something dangerous? The message cut out just as the hologram tried to warn them. The door shook again, this time from outside and inside. Jacob turned toward Leary. "We can't let them in. Help is coming." Leary nodded, wiping her tears. The beacon suddenly emitted a loud, piercing tone one Jacob had never heard before. Outside, the guards lifted their weapons. Inside, Jacob grabbed the mother and Leary, pulling them behind the work table. The workshop lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the glowing beacon remained bright, alive, and trembling. Like it was about to do something big. Something that could save them. Or destroy everything. For a long second, there was nothing but darkness. Jacob couldn't hear the guards. He couldn't hear the storming ship above. He could only hear Leary's fast breathing and the faint trembling hum of the beacon. Then foom! The green beam outside suddenly shut off, and a new sound filled the sky. Quieter, heavier, powerful in a different way. It wasn't the roar of engines, it was the soft hum of a healer ship descending. Jacob's heart leaped. "They're here." Leary grabbed her mother's cold hand and whispered, "Please, please help, Mom." A pale blue glow poured through the workshop windows. Not green, the real color of healer technology. Jacob peeked outside. Large healer ship hovered directly above the street, pushing the glowing green ship aside like a big brother stepping between a bully and a child. Its engines were silent. Its shields shined like a soft bubble around it. Even the guards froze. One guard dropped his spear in fear. It's the healer corps. They came themselves. Another guard whispered, the chief will punish us if we fail, but if we fight them, we die. Jacob didn't care about their fear. All he cared about was the unconscious mother and the little girl clinging to him. The healer ship landed with a slow, majestic slide. Its doors opened, releasing 3 tall healer officers in blue robes. Their faces were covered, but their glowing medical symbols shined bright. The guards tried to stand firm, but when the first healer officer stepped forward, they stepped back. Like frightened animals, a deep, calm voice spoke from behind the healers. Who authorized you to interfere with a medical emergency? Jacob's eyes widened. It was the healer captain, the same one from the beacon's hologram. He wasn't tall, but something about him felt powerful. His calmness was like a wave that pushed fear away. The guards tried to answer, stuttering. The chief said, she's infected. The captain's voice cut like a blade. She is not infected. She is starving. And you knew that. A cold silence fell across the street. The captain turned toward Jacob's workshop and raised his hand. The door lock clicked open by itself. The metal slid aside smoothly. Jacob stood between the healers and the little girl, holding one hand on the toolbox and one protecting Leary. The captain stepped inside slowly. His eyes scanned the room, reading every detail: the broken beacon, the shaking walls, the weak mother on the floor. Then he looked at Jacob. You repaired the beacon. Jacob nodded. She needed help. The captain approached the mother, placing 2 fingers on her wrist. A soft blue light flowed into her veins. The mother's breathing strengthened immediately. Leary gasped and held her mother's hand even tighter. Is she going to wake up? Leary whispered. Yes, the captain said gently. You saved her by bringing her here. And the human saved both of you by repairing the signal. Leary turned to Jacob with eyes full of gratitude. Thank you. Jacob exhaled for the first time in minutes. I'm just glad you're safe. 2 healers lifted the mother carefully onto a floating stretcher. The 3rd healer knelt beside Leary and brushed her hair softly. You are very brave, the healer said. Most children would hide. You stayed with your mother. Leary wiped her tears. I was scared. But Jacob stayed. Humans stay. The captain studied Jacob again, this time with respect. It is rare, he said, to see a human handle alien technology so well. Your repair was not perfect, but it was unexpected, effective. Jacob shrugged. I did what I could. The captain nodded. And you did more than enough. But the moment of peace didn't last long. A loud horn blared from the far end of the street. Jacob turned fast. It was the regional chief's personal convoy, a black armored vehicle with red lights and heavy guards. Leary gasped. They're coming again. The captain's calm face finally changed, just a little. We must leave now. The chief will want to silence the mother before she speaks. Jacob stiffened. She knows something? Yes, the captain said. She witnessed a crime. The chief poisoned the water wells. She saw him. That's why he wants her gone. Jacob felt a chill run down his spine. So that was the truth. The mother wasn't dangerous, that she was a witness. The convoy stopped in front of the healer ship. Guards jumped out, holding weapons. The captain raised his hand. Board the ship, now. Jacob grabbed Leary's hand and lifted her onto the ramp. The mother floated behind them. The healers surrounded them, forming a protective circle. But before the ramp could close, a voice thundered from the convoy. Hand over the woman. That is an order. The healers stood firm. Jacob pulled Leary close. The captain looked straight at the guards, his eyes colder than space. No. The sky suddenly lit up again, and everything exploded into motion. The air shook with tension. The shook with tension. Healer ship's ramp was still open. Weapons pointed from every direction. The street lights flickered under the pressure of two forces, one trying to protect, one trying to silence. Jacob stood with Leary behind him, one hand on her shoulder. The other clenched so hard his knuckles turned white. The unconscious mother lay on the floating stretcher, protected by the healer's energy shields. The regional chief stepped out of his armored convoy. He was bigger than the guards, wrapped in black armor decorated with cruel-looking red stripes. His eyes were dark and sharp, full of control. He pointed at the healers. "You are interfering with government security operations," he shouted. The healer captain didn't move. His robe fluttered gently in the wind, but his voice stayed calm. "Your operations are based on lies." The chief smirked. "That woman carries sickness. She must be removed before she spreads her infection." "She is not infected," Captain replied. "And you know it." Jacob watched carefully. He could feel that the chief wasn't angry because of a disease. He was angry because the woman was alive and about to expose him. But the chief wasn't done. He looked directly at Jacob with a cold, mocking smile. "And you, human, you touched her? You helped them?" He stepped closer. "You have made a very big mistake." Jacob stepped forward without fear. "The real mistake is trying to hurt a starving mother and her child." The chief's smile dropped instantly. "You forget your place." "No," Jacob said. "I'm human." "I don't forget who I am." Something in his tone made even the guards hesitate, but the chief only grew angrier. He pointed at the healers. "Seize the woman. Take the child too." The guards moved forward, their electric spears glowing bright blue. Leary screamed and hid. Behind Jacob's leg, the captain raised a hand, and a blue barrier of healer energy formed instantly. The guards' spears hit it and bounced back with a sizzling crack, but the guards kept pushing. The captain leaned toward Jacob. "We cannot win a battle here. We need more time for evacuation." "Then I'll buy it," Jacob said. The captain blinked, surprised. "You?" Jacob didn't wait. He stepped out in front of the healer barrier, completely exposed. "Stop!" he shouted at the guards. Everyone froze. The chief stared at him in disbelief. "You dare stand between me and my orders?" Jacob nodded once. "If your orders are wrong, yes," the chief laughed. "You think we won't cut you down because you're human?" Jacob took a breath, steady but heavy. "I don't care what you do, but you will not touch them." Leary peeked from behind the barrier, tears filling her eyes. "Jacob, please don't." One guard stepped forward, raising his spear. Jacob didn't flinch, but before the guard could strike, Leary ran forward. She squeezed past the healers, past Jacob, and stood right in front of the guard, spreading her tiny arms wide. "Don't hurt him," she cried. "He saved us. Humans save people." Her small voice echoed across the entire marketplace. The guards froze again. Even the chief hesitated. The sight of the tiny girl, shaking and crying but still brave enough to protect a human, hit the crowd like lightning. People who had been watching from windows stepped out. Others emerged from stalls. Whispers turned into murmurs. "She is right. He helped her. Humans, they protect." The chief growled, sensing the shift. "Silence, all of you." But no one moved away. The healer captain stepped forward. His voice was ice. "You see? Even a child knows the truth." The chief pointed at Jacob again. "You, human, you will regret this." Jacob stepped in front of Leary protectively. "No, you will." The beacon suddenly activated on Jacob's work table, still inside the workshop. It projected a red beam straight into the sky. Everyone looked up. In the clouds high above, many lights appeared, dozens of them. Then hundreds. The captain's eyes widened. "Reinforcements." The beacon called everyone. The chief panicked. "No, no. Shut it down." But it was too late. Multiple healer ships descended like falling stars, surrounding the entire market. Their white and blue lights washed over the street. Drowning the chief's darkness completely, the captain raised his voice. "Chief Baruin, you are under investigation. Stand down immediately." The chief tried to run back to his convoy, but a healer ship blocked the path. Jacob felt Leary squeeze his hand. "Are we safe now?" she whispered. Jacob knelt and smiled softly. "Yes, you're safe." But the healer captain shook his head. "Slightly, not yet," he said. "There is still danger. The chief will not surrender easily." As if to confirm his words, a blaster shot exploded beside them. The battle was far from over, and Jacob, a simple human engineer, was now in the center of a fight that could decide the future of the entire region. The blaster shot struck the ground near Jacob's foot, sending a burst of dust and sparks into the air. Leary screamed and clung tightly to Jacob's arm. The healers instantly raised their energy shields, forming a glowing blue dome around Jacob. Leary and her mother on the stretcher. The regional chief roared, "Stop them! Take the woman at any cost!" His guards charged again, weapons raised high. The healer captain stepped forward. For the first time since Jacob met him, the captain did not look calm. He looked furious. "You endanger a child," he said, "and that is the greatest crime." He raised his hand. A wave of blue energy shot outward like a silent explosion. The guards were thrown back, their weapons flying from their hands. The chief staggered but somehow stayed standing, gripping the hood of his vehicle. Jacob picked up Leary in his arms. "We need to move now," the captain nodded. "Everyone into the main ship." The healers moved fast. Two lifted the stretcher carrying Leary's mother and rushed it toward the largest healer ship. Its ramp still open and glowing bright. But the chief wasn't done. He pulled a small cylinder from his belt, a disruptor device. Its red core pulsed like a beating heart. "No one leaves," the chief screamed. "If I lose my power, then you all." Jacob didn't let him finish. He ran straight toward the chief. The captain shouted, "Jacob, don't!" But Jacob didn't stop. He had Leary's desperate voice in his ears. He had her mother's fading breath in his mind. He had the guard's cruelty burning in his chest. He was human. And humans didn't run away from danger. They ran toward it when someone needed saving. Jacob slammed into the chief with all his strength. The disruptor fell from the chief's hand and rolled across the ground. They struggled, grappling in the dust. The chief was stronger, heavier, and trained. He punched Jacob hard in the ribs, sending pain shooting through his side. Another blow hit Jacob's jaw, making his vision blur. But Jacob refused to fall. "You will not touch that child," he growled through clenched teeth. The chief lifted his fist to strike again, but froze when something small and brave stepped between them. It was Leary. She stood with her arms outstretched, blocking the chief's fist with her tiny body. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but her voice did not shake. "No more hurting." She shouted, "My mom is not your enemy. We did nothing wrong." The chief stared at her in shock. Jacob pulled himself up, blood on his lips, and moved to shield her again, but he didn't need to. Dozens of healer ships landed at once, their blue lights exploding across the street. From every ship, healer officers stepped out, surrounding the chief with their staffs glowing bright. The captain walked forward, his voice cutting the air like thunder. "Chief Baruin," he said, "you are hereby arrested for corruption, poisoning the water wells, and attempting to harm civilians, especially a child and a human who saved lives." The chief tried to run, but the healers closed in, binding him in energy cuffs. Jacob exhaled deeply, holding his bruised side. Leary rushed to him and hugged him tight. "You saved us," she whispered. Jacob rested a shaking hand on her head. "You saved me too." Minutes later, the mother was loaded safely into the healer ship's medical bay. Her pulse was stronger, her breathing steady. The captain himself checked on her, adjusting the healing beams around her chest. "She is already recovering," he said. "You brought her hope." Leary climbed onto the stretcher and hugged her mother gently. "Mom, we are safe." The mother's eyes fluttered, then opened. "Leary," she whispered weakly. Leary burst into tears. Jacob felt warmth fill his chest. He had never seen such pure relief. The healer captain turned to Jacob. "Your actions today," he said, "will not be forgotten by us, by this child, or by this entire system." Jacob shrugged. "I just did what any human should do." The captain smiled. "Perhaps. But sometimes one human is enough to change a world." He reached into his robe and pulled something out. It was the beacon, the toy Jacob had. Repaired, restored, upgraded. Glowing softly. The captain placed it in Jacob's hand. "A symbol," he said, "of a bond between humans and our kind." Leary ran to Jacob, wiping her tears, and smiled for the first time. "Human. You didn't just fix my toy," she said softly. "You fixed my life." Jacob knelt and hugged her gently. "And you showed me something too." "What?" she asked. "That courage doesn't depend on size." As the healer ships lifted into the sky, the crowd cheered. Humans and aliens stood together. The mother held her daughter. Jacob watched, bruised but proud. A single broken toy had changed everything. And a human's heart had changed an entire world.